guard yourself by resigning. I think it's imperative.
Okay.
Because people should not stay in an environment where they can't develop, they can't grow, their health is affected. People should not stay in such environments.
Now we begin today's conversation taking our quote from Dave Willis, an American voice actor, writer, producer, and musician. He once said, "Show respect even to people that don't deserve it, not as a reflection of their character, but as a reflection of yours." All right, then let's take our second quote, and this one is from Gary Chapman, an American author and radio talk show host. Chapman is most noted for his D5 Love Language series regarding human relationships. He once said, when a workplace becomes toxic, its poison spread beyond its walls and into the lives of its workers and their families. Absolutely spot on, you say. Now let's take our last quote, and this one is from Nora Denzel, Silicon Valley technology executive before transitioning to full-time board work. She was the interim CEO of Redbox and held several C-suite positions in technology companies. She once said, "Having a bad boss isn't your fault. Staying with one is." Okay, so let's see how all of these quotes relate to what we will be discussing today. Warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We are reaching you from Captain's Television Studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Now, taking a cue from the last quote we just read from Nora Denzel, let's try to understand who a bad boss really is. One of the traits of a bad boss is that a bad boss is someone who has no respect for your time. A bad boss treats you like a machine, not a person, and probably makes you feel guilty that you are not performing your job as if you were some kind of machine. Now, bad bosses ruin their employees by curating a toxic workplace environment. So, a few days ago, social media, Twitter, went agog, especially in the Nigerian business space, as so many bosses were called out by their current and past employees for horrible acts. Now, you recall that a particular post trended online just recently about a certain tech startup CEO, names withheld, who was accused of abuse ranging from unconscionable curse words and verbal abuse, refusing to grant leave and time off, erratic termination without following due process, basically just deactivating employees' emails and Slack accounts. He was also accused of allegedly telling laid off employees that they wouldn't get a job anywhere else. Can you imagine? Although the accused CEO denied all of the allegations. So, as that article dropped, more people started to speak up about their toxic bosses. A Twitter space that had a cumulative of 98,000 plus listeners, which lasted for over 7 hours, was opened where people bemoaned their toxic bosses. The most targeted companies were the tech startups. Now, as many people said, the equivalent of international companies were nothing like their Nigerian counterparts in terms of employee welfare. Even NGOs that are supposed to uplift women were accused of being brutal to employees and damaging their self-esteem. Perhaps the most shocking is the payment of mega amounts of salary, sexual harassment, insult, and lack of basic human decency and respect for people's time and personal life. Mary from social media said, "Ever heard of crying and working at the same time? Nothing you ever do will be right. Whenever you remember work, hot tears, man." From the stories I've seen and read so far, I feel your pain, sis. I hear you. Sometimes team leads and heads of departments can make life similarly chaotic. Now on the show today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Seun Onakoya. He is a certified life coach. He is affiliated with the Institute of Corporate Administrators, Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, and International Young Professionals Foundation Association. Shion Nakoya is a managing partner, Goodworth Partners Limited, and Apples of Gold Consulting, that's AOG. He is a consultant with International Center for Community Empowerment and Strategic Development, ICCESD. That and many other good things you are about to witness in just a while. Well, you'll get to meet him shortly after this time out. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We are reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now we have our guest. He is Seun Onakoya. He is a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
All right, now let's start by getting your thoughts. Now, who would you designate as a bad or a toxic boss when you see one, especially during interviews? How or what are the traits that defines a toxic boss or superior?
First of all, I think we should look at it from the point of view that people are individuals. That's the first thing. So if you have a toxic individual, then you have a toxic boss. If you have a pleasant individual, then you have a pleasant boss. People are first individuals before you decide whether this person is you're who you are, regardless of your position, you know. So for me, I think a toxic boss will be that boss who does not understand the employees, who does not understand their physical needs, who does not understand their emotional needs, who does not understand their financial needs, and who does not understand their social needs. You know, because I'm a strengths coach, I look at things from the point of strengths. You know, so that understanding, I believe, is critical for any organization and for any boss who wants to really, you know, engage, who wants to engage their team. So being toxic is first that the person is toxic. Before you bring it to the workplace. So don't be shocked. If you're toxic, if you're a toxic boss, you'll most likely be a toxic husband. You will most likely be a toxic father. Neighbor, you know, and so on. So that nature, that thing of being toxic, it finds itself in, so we are members of a family, you know, we come from families. So I've looked at when people talk about, oh, this person is toxic, I want to look at the background of the person. People don't just become toxic. I want to look at their background. I want to look at their environment. I want to look at where are they getting this from?
Where this influences people.
Exactly. So if you've always seen your father beat your mother, you would think that's the way of life. And because you think that's the way of life, you will bring it to the workplace. So we are all from families. So the question is, a toxic boss, where is he from? What kind of environment did he grow up in? What are his values? Those are the things that he brings to the workplace. And he will transfer those things to everyone around him. Whether they're employees, whether they're neighbors, it doesn't really matter. You know. So that's the core thing that we need to understand, that people are first individuals. You know, and they bring what they are or who they are as individuals, that's what they bring to the workplace.
Okay. Okay, so now let's set the dichotomy here. What is the difference between a toxic boss and a difficult or maybe principled one?
So being toxic, I would say, is someone who abuses people. Abuses in the sense that it could be mental abuse, it could be verbal abuse, it could be physical abuse, it could be even financial abuse.
Okay.
You know, so that's someone who is toxic.
Okay.
Right. Now, being principled is different. Principled means that there are certain set of values that we operate by. I stick to the principles, I stick to the values. It doesn't mean you are toxic. These are the established norms within these organizations. And if you're working here, you need to stay within those established norms. You know, now, if there is a conflict of values, then we need to check whether that is a place that the employee should be working. You know, once there's a conflict of values, then you need to decide what you want to do.
Okay, because a lot of people actually mistake toxic boss for a principled one. Someone that is principled, they just say this man is just wicked. He is stingy. He doesn't want to give out money to people. So now there's actually the difference between these two, right?
Yes, there is.
Okay, great. So now, how do you deal with one? You already realize that your boss is a toxic one. How do you deal with him or her?
First of all, as human beings, we need to understand ourselves. You know, once you understand that this person, so let's put it in context. There's this boss who verbally abuses the staff, right? Now, it's not, as an employee, it's not good for your mental health, you know. So some people don't, the funniest part is, some bosses don't even know that that's what they're doing.
Yeah, true.
So they see it that, oh, I need to assert myself. Some people see it as a way of asserting themselves.
Okay.
Some people feel it's that's the only way they know how to ensure that people do what they need to do, you know. But you see, as an employee, once you understand that this boss is toxic, then the options are open for you. You know, first of all, I think people should guard their mental health.
Okay.
I think people should, anything that would demean your person, I think you should guard your space. You know. So first of all is to bring it to the attention of the boss that, look, I don't like what you're doing. You keep abusing me verbally, or, you know, and it's affecting my work. So bring it to their attention. Some genuinely don't know. However, if you've done that and it's not working, then if you have an HR person who is a counselor, you can you can reach out to the person and say, look, this is happening. I need help in this area. However, if you meet a brick wall, I think you should guard yourself by resigning. I think it's imperative.
Okay. Because
people should not stay in an environment where they can't develop, they can't grow, their health is affected. People should not stay in such environments.
Okay, so we'll definitely come back to that. Now, according to Jack Sidekos, he was quoted as saying that, I haven't really had too many bosses. Any bad boss I had was probably because I was a bad employee. How true is this? Does it apply across board?
I don't think that applies across board.
Okay.
You know, it's, some people are naturally just, some people are bad. You know, they work at it. They work at being bad. you know. So you are not going to blame yourself for the defect in somebody else's, you know, somebody else's life. If a boss is bad, is bad. You know, if you are a good employee, you are a good employee. If you are a bad employee, you can be a bad employee and have a good boss.
Exactly.
And you can be a bad boss and have good employees. So, you know, that's why I said at the beginning, we're first individuals. If I'm a bad individual, then it affects every other thing I do. So whether I'm a boss, whether I'm an employee, it really doesn't matter. The fundamental thing is the person is bad. You know, that being bad comes from a lot of things. Your environment, it comes from family background, it comes from what you yourself have learned over time. You know, so I don't expect people to blame. I won't blame myself, for example, for a bad boss's behavior. No, I won't do that. You know, likewise, I don't expect him to blame himself for my behavior. Let everybody take responsibility for their behavior.
For their own behaviors. Yeah. Okay. So now, how do you act or talk responsibly in a workplace, either as an employee or as an employer? Because I've got to see, you get to see so many people, they just talk to people in their workplace like as though it's the way they talk to their friends. So what is the professional way of addressing your colleague, either your boss or your subordinates?
I think we should work with each other on the basis of mutual respect. You know, we are in an environment where respect is demanded. So whether you are at home, whether you are in the workplace, whether you are in society, respect is demanded. So within our own cultural context, because we have to always put that in perspective.
Okay.
Our cultural context, people demand respect. Your mother demands respect, whether, do you understand? Your brothers, your siblings, everybody. So that's the culture we live in, right? Now, I find it rather disturbing when we engage in cross-cultural rationality.
Okay.
So you begin to say things like, oh, this is how it's done in the UK, this is how it's done in the US. I'm sorry. They have their own cultural context. So you cannot impose the cultural context of the UK or the US on a clime like Nigeria.
Africa even generally.
Africa in general. You know, and that's where we miss it. So we've learned this we've learned some culture from the UK, and we want to bring it here. You know, sometimes those things don't work. You are going to find resistance. You understand? So as a people, we must build our own culture. We must build our own way of life and let it work for us. So within the organization, I believe that people should speak professionally. People should there must be mutual respect. So the boss must respect the employees likewise must respect the boss. You know, you can't talk down on people. I don't allow people talk down on the people that work with me, you know. And I think you shouldn't talk down on anybody, you know, no matter who you are. First and foremost, we have terms of engagement. You did not engage the person to talk down on the person. You engage the person for work. Even if the person is not, you know, doing what they should do, that means that they are not delivering as they should. You should provide opportunities for them to develop themselves within, you know, within the context of the workplace. So it's not every time you shout on people. It's not every time you utter bad words, you know, you curse people. No, you don't. Those kind of words are not for the workplace, you know. And I believe that those things should not be tolerated, you know. If you do that, the essence of the person is what you're demeaning, and I think you shouldn't do that. Yeah.
Okay, so I hear you say that if as an employee you have a problem with your boss, or you notice that he or she is a toxic boss, then one of the things you should do is resign. How about...
Before you resign,
okay,
you should communicate.
Okay, communicate,
yes. Resigning should be the last option. Okay. That means that I've done all I can.
You've gone the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I've gone the whole 9 yards. This person doesn't seem to see it. I think I need to preserve my space.
Okay.
Yes.
So how about when it is not the boss that is toxic, it is the employee that is toxic at the moment? Should the boss then resign? Okay.
In that case, the boss employed the employee. You know, so within the limits of the terms of engagement, you know, you can show the person the way out. Okay. Yes, because what happens is this: being toxic does not only affect the person. Gradually, it will spread to your team, and it will affect the entire organization. So once you spot it, once you've tried to address it and it's not working, then I think the best thing is to show the person the way out.
Okay, so for a lot of people, they complain that their organization is toxic. In fact, everywhere you can even smell the toxicity around. So how do you survive in such organization, either as a boss or a subordinate?
If an organization is toxic, there are fundamental issues, you know, that we're overlooking. So it's the culture of the organization, you know, like Sam Chan says, it says, culture eats vision, you know, culture eats vision for lunch, you know. So if that's the culture of the organization, and culture is not far from those who are operating the system, you know, they actually embed the culture within that organization. So if you find yourself in such an environment, it's important that you try as much as possible to see how you can change what obtains.
Okay.
You know, I don't take a defeatist approach to issues. I try to look at how can we make this thing better? Can we make this organization better? And if I see that, man, it's not working, you know, then I think the onus lies on me, you know, to preserve my space. So if you find yourself in a toxic environment, if you've tried your best possible to say, look, we can change things and it's not working, then I think self-preservation should be your next approach.
All right then, so now since you talked about resignation being the last resort.
Yes, miss.
Now for a lot of people, they resign from their workplace and then the first thing some other people will ask is, do you have another job? And when the answer is no, then you just begin to wonder, so why did you leave the place that pays you well, or at least you have somewhere to go every morning? Now, and then sometimes you just find out that those people, they just get into some freelance business or job, or even just stay at home looking for other job. Is that a better option?
Give and take. We need to weigh every option. You know, sometimes you resign and you don't know what the next job is going to look like. You know, and I think also that before people take jobs, they should do their own due diligence.
Okay.
So organizations do due diligence on you before they recruit you. You also should do your due diligence on the organization.
Even at this time when people keep screaming there are no jobs, do people still do diligence? Look,
you have to choose between your state of mind, your health, and working in a toxic environment.
Okay.
If you have value to offer, if you know you've got something to bring to the table, then you should do your due diligence.
Okay.
So if you're going to make an investment, right? You are going to do due diligence, right?
Most definitely.
Good. So if you are going to do due diligence when you are making investments, why don't you see your life that you are putting in that organization as an investment? So it's imperative that you do your due diligence. And if you're hearing from 5, 10, 20 people that this organization is toxic, and you also decide to step in there, then whatever you meet is what you get. So, but I think people should do their due diligence on organizations before they step in there. Yes, there is, you know, people say there are no jobs. But you see, when people say there are no jobs, you keep getting vacancy every time. So the question is it true that there are no jobs, or is it true that we don't have the right skills to fit into those jobs that exist?
Okay.
So like today, right now, you will still find over 100 vacancies. And tomorrow, same thing. Next tomorrow, same thing. So what's happening?
Okay, so now, for such people, they've already resigned. They have nothing to do at the moment. Is it fine to just stay at home and keep doing your due diligence before you get some other job?
For me, I think once you are in between jobs, I believe that's the time for personal development.
Okay.
So you should take online courses. You should keep developing yourself.
Okay.
You know, while you are trying to get the next job. You know, and when people come to me and say, "Oh, can you help me get a job?" My question is, what type of organization do you want to work with? What type of organization do you want to work with? So you find out that the answer to that question, a lot of people don't even know.
You just hear anyone.
Yeah, anyone. And there is no organization that is called anyone. So people you must know your what, you must know your values, you must know where you want to work.
Okay.
You must know the type of job you can do and can't do.
Okay.
You know, so those things must be clear to you as a person. And once those things are clear, it's easy for you to get the next job.
All right, now let's talk about one particular post that trended online for several weeks. And now with the, you had 2 security boys, men, who were at the doorpost dancing, and then even though they were doing their job, but then they were dancing, and then they got laid off by the company. And then a lot of people, when it was thrown online, a lot of people became advisors, consultants at the moment, HR in fact, immediately, and started giving comments on how best the company would have taken advantage of such people, even as an HR. Now, how best do you maximize the potential of such dedicated workers?
You see, it's a two-way thing.
Okay.
For me, first, we have terms of engagement. Now, my question is, does that terms of engagement include dancing on duty?
Okay.
Now, if you answer that, you put it in perspective. Now, could the organization have used that as, you know, some sort of brand strategy, or, you know, could they have used it to build their own, you know, brand and all that? Yes, they could. But you see, what if, as they were doing that, people were being robbed? Okay. It would be a different story. The reason people can comment and comment and comment right now is because nothing bad happened. If you are a security guy, you know, you're a security officer, it's imperative that you are focused on your duty.
Okay.
Right? Now, so you can't, you know, when we make comments on those kind of things, you know, sometimes we don't really x-ray all the scenarios.
Okay.
Now, are they dedicated to their work? Probably. You know, do they do their work well? Probably. Could that day just have been one day out of the many days? Probably. So there are different scenarios. So based on the scenarios, there will be different answers for each scenario.
Okay.
So, but for organizations, if you know that these people are dedicated people, they do their work very well, then I don't think they should be sacked.
Okay.
You know, it could just be, you know, just one of those days. You know, but if it's becoming if it's becoming a norm, then even the organization that employed the security company will question them.
Okay.
So it's a scenario based. We have to give answers based on whatever scenario you want to pick. Do you want to pick a scenario where somebody comes in and actually there's a theft, or you know, there's a security situation and they are not attending to it and they are dancing? Then the conversation will be different.
But I think if we have to look at it the way the video came in, they were still doing their job, still opening and shutting the doors while dancing. So like you said, some people could have used it to influence their brand. So how best could they have you, if the person actually who look at the scenario that they were doing their job very well, even bring it that part, dancing? Is there any possible way that you could just use that to influence your brand and put it into the your brand structure or something?
I think one of the ways that it could have been used is to actually for the security company now, not for the eatery. You know, for the security company, you know, so that could be a line. You know, we ensure the well-being, the social well-being of our employees. You know, so it portrays them as a security company who is invested in their employees, and a security company who actually cares for, you know, the well-being of their employees. Because part of it also is that those guys stand almost from morning to night, you know, and that could be just some form of exercise for them, you know, to keep fit and all that. So yes, the security company could have done it better, you know. Yeah, so that could have played out a lot better for them than just laying them off.
All right, then let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll expand this conversation a little bit further. I will see you shortly. They are so corrupt that if you don't greet them 5 times a day, you've already earned yourself, become their enemy. Or if you don't send them gift card on their birthdays, or even buy them gifts, and then some would even ask you to contribute for a particular occasion they are having, probably their mother's burial or any occasion like that, and that they are hosting. And if you do not pay or contribute, you have automatically registered yourself in their bad book, and they will definitely wait for you on the day of reckoning. Now, for such bosses, how do you deal with them?
Well, like I said, you can't help having those kind of people, you know, and if you can't help it, then you need to be a master at relationship building.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We are reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you missed quite a lot, but then you can still join in the conversation as we still have our guest. He is Seun Onakoya. He is a Gallup certified strength coach, and we have been talking about toxic bosses or toxic organization. Now then, let's talk about for places, for a lot of people work in places where they're owed salaries for months, even years. Some are even paid a very paltry sum as salaries. And then, in fact, it was just with the last incident that we got to know that some large international conglomerates even pay their Nigerian workers as low as 500, less than 1,000. And then we know that those things happen, even though salaries are not increasing, but then the markets are not smiling. So now, the excuse that these workers will always give is that there are no jobs, so they cannot leave. They will keep managing, even whether they are not being paid well, or they're not even being paid at all. They're being owed salaries for months or years. And then, is that any need? Is that any reason? Or should you at that point, should you have a reason to start job hunting?
It's a dicey question, because there's so many things that contribute to that, you know.
Okay.
And you have to look at it, Nigeria as a nation. You know, if you find out our minimum wage today is about 30,000, right? So if our minimum wage today is 30,000, that's the federal government. Businesses provide their own power. Businesses provide almost anything for themselves, you know. Now, you have AMAC knocking on doors of businesses.
That's for Abuja.
For Abuja. In states, is either LIRS or one consumption tax or one tax or one, you know, and all that. So you have all these things, and you still need to ensure that the business survives, right? So if the business is profitable, I don't see any reason why people will be owed salaries.
Okay.
If the business is not profitable, then they have two options. Either they begin to reduce salaries, or they outright lay off. Now, but when you, I don't subscribe to owing people salaries for a long time. You know, it's best you sit down with them. Look, my team, this is not working. This is not what we envisage. The market is not smiling. We need to make some adjustments. You know, communicate. The worst part of that scenario is that people don't communicate. And people just, you know, the bosses or the owners of the companies just feel they should know that Nigeria is not working.
Exactly.
You know, no, you need to communicate.
Okay.
So when you communicate, people understand. And you see, and it depends on how you're running your business. If you run your business in such a way that, you know, people, there's active communication. People know what's happening per time. People know whether we're making money or we're not making money. You know, it allows them also to set their own expectations.
Okay.
So if we're making money, then we should be increasing salaries. Then benefits should be coming. But if we're not making money, okay, can we make some adjustments?
Okay.
You know, I've had people come to during COVID. So we're hit during COVID, and one of my staff came to meet me and said, "Oh, Mr. Shion, how are we still paying salaries?" You know, and I said, "Oh, don't worry, we had some savings, you know, so we can still manage, we'll pull through."
Okay.
You understand? But you see, that's concern on the part of the employee that, look, we're not working.
And yet we're being paid salaries.
And yet, you understand? But you see, so it's both ways.
Okay.
There must be communication both ways. At some point during COVID, we had to tell our staff, look, we'll keep paying as long as we can. At some point, we had to tell them, we can only afford to pay 50% at this point.
Okay.
You know, and when things improved, then we went back to paying full salary. So,
okay.
Which was, you know, but communication is key. We need to communicate. I don't think people should slave. I don't believe people should slave. I don't believe that people should, if people are putting in effort, you know, and they are getting results. So there is effort and there is result. You know, if people are getting results for your organization, then I believe that you should compensate them adequately.
Okay.
You know, and I make a distinction between effort and result.
Result.
Yes, because nobody is going to pay you for trying. you know, and I tried. I tried.
I tried my best.
I did my best. It doesn't win medals, you know. So if you are, for example, if you're a salesperson and you have targets and you're meeting your targets, then you should be compensated adequately.
Okay.
If you can't come every month and say, I tried is not going to pay down your salary, you know. So that's where we need to, there must be a balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's take a message from our social media. A former NGO employee was quoted as saying that I was conspired against because I wasn't the same tribe as they were. When a new staff member came, they drove me away from my seat and said, God will do my own because I was just a contract staff. End of quote. Now, so that's another issue on its own, where you have people form one kind of group based on religion or ethnicity or tradition, and then they just keep walking in that circles together. So now in terms like that, where you have maybe people just put themselves together as I am the Yoruba community, or I am the Igbo clans, or the Northern Association, how would you, who is not interested in such conclave, be able to cope in that environment?
I think we're suffering from that as a nation, you know, and businesses, you would also find that in businesses, you know, and like I said, it starts with the leader and it ends, the buck stops at the table of the leader.
Okay.
You know, organizations have that, you know, but if you find yourself in those, in that kind of organization, I think you should, you know, that's why I keep saying something about learn about the culture of your organization. It happens everywhere. You know, it happens everywhere. You'll find when Trump was president of America, he brought all his friends as ministers. You know, so those things happen. You know, so you must be a different person. You must be able to walk within that kind of space. So whether they are a group of whether they are from the same state, whether they are from the same religion, you know, you must distinguish yourself as a person. You know, one day I checked my office and I found out that, oh wow, there's nobody from my tribe in this office.
Oh, really?
And I was like, that's shocking. You know, but you see, it wasn't really shocking because I'm not that kind of person. You know, so you will find all manner of people in my office from different states, from, you know, because that's not the primary thing. For me, it's, can you get results? Can you get it done? You know, those things matter more. Performance matters more than where you come from. You know, it's of recent that I began to say, okay, this person is from where I come from, you know, and it was someone that who brought my attention to it that, do you know, there's nobody from, I said, oh wow, that's interesting. But you see, we must also build that mindset. We must see people as people. Okay. Not, oh, this person is from this tribe, this person is from this religion. We must see people as people, you know, and that would help us as a people and also help us as individuals. If I see you as Annabelle, you know, not where you come from, not anything, you know, not any other tag, then we can relate well. So if you find yourself in such a company where you're having such issues, then you might want to reconsider whether that's where you want to be. Because
now you know that some bosses even deliberately handpick people that maybe from their own religion or tradition, so that they can use them, put them there in positions where they can become moles for them. So at that point, what do you do?
The question is, do you want to become a mole? Do you know, it's about what are your own set values. Okay. You know, what are your own set values? Anybody can desire anything for you, but what do you want for yourself? Okay. That's very important. In all this conversation, toxic bosses, toxic environment, toxic workplace, even toxic families, So if you're in a toxic family, are you going to get out of the family, or you're going to find a way? You're going to find a way.
Definitely.
But when you find out that, it's getting difficult, then you decide, okay, I need to relocate from this place. So ultimately, the relocation, the resigning is always the final
last resort.
The last resort, yes.
All right, so now it is said that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, do you know that there are some bosses that they are so corrupt that if you don't greet them 5 times a day, you've already earned yourself, become their enemy? Or if you don't send them gift card on their birthdays, or even buy them gifts, and then some would even ask you to contribute for a particular occasion they are having, probably their mother's burial or any occasion like that, and that they are hosting. And if you do not pay or contribute, you have automatically registered yourself in their bad book, and they will definitely wait for you on the day of reckoning. Now, for such bosses, how do you deal with them?
Well, like I said, you can't help having those kind of people. And if you can't help it, then you need to be a master at relationship building.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
How so?
You need to be a master at relationship building. I've worked with people, different kind of people, but you see, everybody, no matter how difficult they are, they have their own soft spots. So the question is, how well do I understand this person to be able to work with this person in such a way that I don't compromise my own values?
Okay.
So it's for you to study the person, and once you're able to study someone, it's easier for you to know what triggers them. If you have a boss who feels, greets me 5 times a day, do you understand? Greeting him 5 times a day, is it going to affect your person? It's not going to affect your person.
How about bosses who would ask you to go pick their children from school, and then you just feel, I'm not your slave or something? How do you deal with those ones too?
Then you tell them that's not part of your job description.
And then that means you become an enemy to them.
Well, you see, that's why it depends on the work environment.
Okay.
The work environment determines a lot of things. There are some bosses who would offer to help you pick your children from school.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are some bosses who will go out of norm for you. Now, if you have those kind of bosses and they say, can you help me do this? Sure, you will.
Definitely.
You understand? So that's why I said it's about mutual respect.
Okay.
There are certain things that you are not going to tell your employees to do. But if your employees also see that, this person goes above and beyond for me, they will also do it for you. So it's coming to that point where we, whether as employees or whether as employers, we understand that we value people based on who they are. Understand that people have value and place a value and a premium on them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now some pundits have said that it is due to lack of litigation, because some of these actions violate people's human rights and are against the labor laws. So perhaps if more people were sued for all of this terrible conduct, we might see a reduction in them. So how about companies or organizations where you're made to sign consciously or unconsciously to sign an employment contract 2 weeks after your employment that this organization is not open to litigations or being sued now, and you assented to that agreement because you were desperate to get a job, whether desperate or you just wanted to get a job, or maybe you didn't even see that part, you just turned blind eye to it. How do you deal with such?
First of all, don't sign anything you are not reading. I don't believe people should sign things that their lawyers have not cross-checked.
Okay.
Do you understand? I've had people lose so many things because of just appending your signature, on anything. So if an organization is giving you an employment letter, it's your responsibility to read it. Okay. It's your responsibility to ensure that you understand all the terms and conditions. And once you understand the terms and conditions and you feel that, look, this term and condition, I don't like it, you bring it to their attention. If they're not going to do anything about it, you have an option. Look, let's not always say that we don't have a choice. You always have a choice. Okay. You have a choice whether to take that job or not. You have a choice. This morning, I had a choice whether to be here or not. So we always have a choice. So if you find yourself, so they gave you an agreement, you don't like what is in the agreement, leave the agreement on the table and walk away. Okay. But don't sign the agreement, then complain later. Because it doesn't make sense. You've already signed it, you are bound by it. There are organizations that tell you that for 5 years after you leave their employment, you can't work in a competition. You can't work with a competitor. There are organizations that tell you that. So if you sign that, you can't break the agreement. So that's what we need to consider. Look, before you go into anything, ensure that you've read the fine prints.
Okay.
Understood the fine prints. If the fine prints are in conflict with your values, with your person, then please leave it on their table.
All right, so what kind of policies can the organization introduce to help eliminate this kind of toxic relationship in the organization, both from the employers and the employees?
I think first, okay, so I used to do something in my office before, which is, because I like reading, I feel everybody should read. So the moment I see you, I give you a book to read.
Okay.
But later, the moment I began to do coaching, I found out that it was a blind spot for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a blind spot. And so what I now do is, I now tell people, how best do you learn?
Okay.
It's a different strategy. How best do you learn? So if I understand how best you learn, then it helps me to help you, right? As opposed to what I used to do before, which is, this book, I just read it. Everybody cannot read. Everybody doesn't like reading. Some people learn through videos, some people learn, in bits. Some people learn through games. Some people learn by, once they watch a 10-minute video, they get the entire concept you put in the book. So understanding people is first the key. We need to build an environment where we can understand the people we work with. So if I know your strengths and you know my strengths, then we can work together. And that's where, for me, I make sure that everyone who works with me does the strengths assessment.
Okay.
Because I want to know your strengths. I want to be able to help you. I want to be able to help you fit into the culture that we are building. I want to be able to help you become a better person. So we need to create an environment of trust.
Okay.
We need to create an environment of mutual respect. Mutual respect is very, very important. You can't talk down on people. And there are things that you can't legislate. There are things that you can't legislate. I've heard of organizations where, you meet someone in the lift, you don't like his tie, and you say, oh, you're fired. Without recourse to the process. And everybody should understand the process. You should. So if you're going to tell people, if you perform well, this is what happens, then you should tell them, if you don't perform well, this is what should happen. So communication is key. we need to communicate with everyone, both the leaders and the led.
Okay.
Should understand what we stand for as an organization.
Okay.
Once you understand that, then we should all work together to ensure that we have a thriving organization.
Okay.
I think that's very important.
Okay. Now, taking a cue from what you just said, because we all learn differently. We all assimilate differently.
Definitely.
Some people can be very, very slow, while some people could be a fast learner. Now, in the job of the human resources, they're supposed to ensure that employees are comfortable mentally, physically, and they can work effectively. What happens where the human resource department does not exist at all, or they are dormant, or maybe complicit, or equally evil? And then you have a tyrannical boss, and then who has unburdened power and authority. How do you also deal with such?
Where the HR does not exist, you see, as an employee, there's little you can do.
Okay.
Yes, because people build their organizations. Whether they want to put systems in place or they want to put processes in place, it has to come from the top.
Okay.
So there must be the buy-in of the leadership of the organization, for you to get systems and processes in place. So where an organization does not have HR unit, there are organizations that don't have HR, but they have all the processes in place. They don't just have HR department.
Okay.
But they have all the processes in place, and they follow their processes. So you as a person, if you understand how organizations should work, you should be able to bring ideas to the table and say, look, can we do this? Can we put this in place? I used to work in the HR department of an organization, and I found out that there were certain things that were not in place, and I wrote a paper,
okay,
with someone else, and said, look, we can position this organization better. Can we look at it from this point of view? We submitted it to the management, and the management really loved it.
Okay.
Part they implemented, part they left. We understand why they did that. So like I said, I'm always an advocate of, positivity. We can make a change. We can't close.
Completely rule
yes, we can't completely rule out that this can't happen. No, we can always make a change wherever we find ourselves. So it's important that the odds are more in favor of the owners of the business than the employees. That's the truth.
Okay.
But the employees can bring suggestions to the table if it's an environment where suggestions are accepted and things can be discussed.
Okay.
If you don't have that environment where things can be discussed, whatever the boss has said is what we do. And the funniest part also is that there are certain organizations that the boss does not really say anything. But you see, the middle managers use that as an opportunity to oppress other people.
And say the boss has
said. So you need to be discerning within the organization and know where the power centers are.
Okay.
Because you can have a CEO of a company who everybody says, oh, that's what the CEO said. That's what the CEO wants. And the moment you begin to converse with the CEO, you say, sorry, I don't even understand what you're talking about. So we need to, as employees, it's important that we look at how we understand our organization, understand where the power centers are, and understand how we can work with the power centers. It's very important.
Okay.
People should, I believe that organizations should create an environment where people can thrive.
Okay.
If people thrive, your organization will thrive. If people are not thriving, then your organization will not thrive. It's just as simple as that.
Thank you so much for your time with us, Shion Nakoya, Gallup Certified Strengths Coach. It's been a wonderful time having this talk with you.
Thank you very much.
All right then, so you've heard it all from Seun Onakoya, who is a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach. So now, in the other hand, the court of public opinion is also important. Sharing your experiences at these places and with these bosses, especially when you do not work there anymore, can deter people from seeking employment there and open them to some public ridicule, and that is some behavioral check. Now, 1 in every 2 employees have been bullied by their boss or even colleagues, and they are even bullied themselves, or they are even bullies themselves rather. So, are you one of those who have been bullied, or are you a bully? Send us a message on any of our social media portal now showing on your screen, and we'll love to hear your story. Remember, before you make demands, make sure you are in demand. I will see you again next time. From the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.